conflict for centuries had lain, until it raised its bloodied head in this present day. The men and women of the soil that lies beneath us here have drawn the gun and raised the flag and shed the bitter tear. For freedom and for camaraderie they flung away the yoke of empire and tradition to live the life of folk who no longer to the hard life will endure the pain of starving clan, scant respect, and the Lord's disdain. Oh, but what in these dark times of the ones who also call this home, wedged between the rebels' ring and the Church of Rome. Alas, their time is running out. They lament the dying sun, and what of mercy hear they say in the year of 21.
I sat within the valley green. I sat me with my true love. My sad heart strolled through between the old love and the new love. The old for her, the new that made me think on Ireland dearly. While soft new wind blew down the glen and shook the golden valley.
Bridget?
Yes, ma'am.
Myself and Mr. Liza should not be dining in this evening. We only have the small ones. We're going over to the Lindsays. Could you please send word to the lodge and get Lowry to bring the motor car out for 8?
Yes.
George,
Yes, dear.
did you hear the military shot 3 men dead this morning at Knockrow? Seemingly, Kieran Fleming, that used to work here, was one of them.
Fleming. Yes, yes. He was quite the ploughman. It's a pity he didn't put his energies into something more productive. Misguided ruffians, the lot of them.
Oh, his poor mother. I only met her at the fair last week. Eyes downcast, if all belonged to her were dead.
Well, they bloody will be soon if they keep carrying on like a bunch of hoodlums. 2 more of our boys are stuck in that tomfoolery. Delusional schoolboys, jumping from behind hedges with hurls and the like.
If Hurley's is all they had, it would be quite innocuous. Well, I suppose it does take a little delusion to change things.
Change? Why would we want change? Bless your charitable and noble heart, my dear. But the real politic of life is that there are those who guide change at its natural pace and those who follow. It's been the social order and a contract that we have subscribed to since the Glorious Revolution.
I suppose. But they are hungry, those young lads, in so many ways.
Indeed they are, hungry like wolves. And you know, in the penal times, wolves were one part of the trinity of burdensome beasts, along with the priest and the Tory.
No doubt your verbal dexterity as a Queen's Counsel will persuade me, more so than the more essence of the argument. But I do worry the gun has gotten the upper hand of reason across the land.
There was plenty of fighting in the Somme and Gallipoli with the monsters, and not one of those yellow-bellied bastards would go.
Now, dear, I don't see what good it would do to get so excited. We should perhaps be keeping our heads low. Some of these stories are quite horrendous.
Keep our heads low. Damn it, woman, we've never had enough but to drive outwards. If we sit still, then events will consume us, and we are lost.
I'm only voicing my concerns. Maud Lindsay told me that the rebels were quite incensed when you ordered Lowry and those other men to clear the road of those felled trees in Capamore last month. Seemingly, they're in preparation for an ambush.
A bloody ambush? Even the war reeks of cowardice and avarice. To take a man's life from behind a wall or a a mystery. God knows, death is mystery enough.
Is everything okay, Father?
Of course, Primrose, everything's fine. And remember, we have to tackle that mare bright and early in the morning, after your tuition.
Yes, Father.
They have it all backwards anyway. That bloodthirsty maniac Cromwell was the first Republican in this country. Villain and all that he was. Isn't that some bloody paradox, my love?
The Lord Protector was quite the tyrant.
My grandfather always said he did 100 years of killing in 6 months.
Yes, but that's all in the past now. I do fear that paradoxes are beyond the comprehension of these young lads. They are, as you say, misguided. But I do think the situation in the countryside may go to a point where we all slide into the abyss.
Not at all, dear. The army are gaining the upper hand. We've had nearly 5 years of this nonsense now, and I can see an end in sight.
I agree it will end. I just hope it ends soon.
Was down by the glenside. I saw an old woman, she was plucking young nettles, and ne'er saw me coming. I listened a while to the song she was humming. Glorio, Glorio, to the bold Fionn men.
That was lovely. Come on and tell me the news anyway, will you?
Oh, Tom Ryan said the 4 sides of the house around it. Oh, all the big wigs of the battalion were there, and the army came swarming over the hill like bees.
And where did they shoot Cleary?
Through the forest, the bastards.
No, what part of the house?
Oh, I see him, his gun jammed up, and they had him out in an outhouse. And they dragged him out, and they shot him on top of a chopping block like a dog.
Oh, by God, I'd give them bastards the lead. If it wasn't for me sick mother and serious ailments, I'd be out there right now, avenging those brave sons of Aaron.
Oh, sure you would. I'd be the same yourself. Only for the old bad. We've waited 600 years to strike a blow, and my hip gives way when it all kicked off.
And going back to my serious ailments, if it wasn't for that, I'd be mowing down them black and tans now by the dozen.
I heard the lady was fit to be tried and well set for revenge.
Well, by God, he'll sow it into them, or someone, or something.
They put out a spake last night, nailed it to the door of the post office and the shops. John Reedy read it aloud in the barn. Pertaining to, that all Britishers and spies in the area would be dealt with harshly. And it also stated that no one in the area is to cooperate with the occupying forces under any circumstances.
Oh Lord Jesus, give one and release this to the holy field of Ireland!
What about the serious ailments?
What price, Jack?
Anyway, the boss just happened to be passing when Reedy was dishing it out, and he lost the rag. He said the rebels were a bunch of old batting powers with sticks and rosary beads.
What's a bad and pill?
I think there's some breed of a horse. Was young back to Laney there? He didn't open his trap. Sure he didn't. But there's no way he'll be back to the Laney with all the news. I'm telling you that the boss would want to be careful. He would want to be careful. I mean, I'd hate to see anything happen to the boss. I'm with him 15 years now, and I tell you, I've never worked for a fairer man. Well, not me neither. He always gives me jobs I can manage, you know, to suit me out serious areas. And then little Missy Primrose, isn't she a pure lady? Bringing us out the sweet cake and stout when we're at the hay with Bridget. She's a gas young one, feisty, and well able to hold her own on that chestnut mare. Oh, I don't know. Anyway, the sooner this business is over, the better. And when we can drive what's left of them bastards back into the sea, and then we can get back to normal. How will they know which ones to drive into the sea? The Brits, of course, and their comrades. I mean, they'd never confuse Primrose and the little sisters as comrades, would they? I mean, that'd be terrible. Oh, you want my Dawn? Of course not. Sure, we know the boss and his family for years. They'll only be driving the bad ones into the sea. Who decided that?
Christily, how did I miss it? 3 of our finest officers gunned down by the bastards, and I above fencing in Newtown. Mind you, as soon as I heard the military rolling down the Clooney Road, I knew something was happening, and I went straight to the hideout for the gun.
Oh, count yourself lucky, Jim. I got out with Darcy. Bullets flying over our heads. Oh, I headed straight for here. We have to drive on now, Jim. We're only in the middle of the river. This is a war, no matter how they try to portray it.
When they kill 2 infants in a reprisal, it's collateral damage. But when we kill one of them, it's murder and terror. Oh, language is a great manipulator of hearts and minds.
People are easily manipulated by lies, especially those polished and painted up to appear as facts.
And there's none better than them. It's their own language, and they know best how to bend and shape it to suit.
Oh, indeed, and they do. And you know it is their own law too, that they're using in our country. We don't have to choke on it any longer. Now is the time.
Roddy, any news? There must be fierce activity after yesterday.
Oh, a couple of hours after that raid in Knock Row. Our boys executed that panther Strode. They propped the body up against Mayor's Wall on the main road and put a sign around his neck. Spies and informers, beware.
God almighty. Things are heating up. Do you think he gave information into the barracks about the meeting?
I don't know, probably. But we needed to strike back and fast too.
Was he a legitimate target?
What the bloody hell do you mean? Of course he was. And anyway, there's nothing legitimate about this dirty war. Those panthers are the eyes and the ears of the British in the countryside. Sure, only last week your man Lysa got his men to chop up a tree that we knocked at Kappa. We were planning on drawing the military out from under Horn and taking him on at the crossing. I tell you, his cards are marked now too.
License? Jeez, he's well connected. And well got with the people. In his old fella Pally with Kitchener himself.
Or the better so. The bigger the target, the louder the bang.
Jesus, they must be in a right state after Stone.
Oh, they are indeed. They came out last night and they burned the drapers and Shay's workshop, burned them to the ground.
They're coming undone. The more burning and killing they're doing, the more they're losing this war.
I have news for you. You know, sometimes I wonder about him. Asking was Stone a legitimate target. There's times when a fella can have too much education and not enough sense.
No, but 'tis a rarity to have the two of them, though. And he does. Anyway, look, you haven't got to worry about him. He's solid as a rock.
The boss is after proposing to the others that you'd make a good OC to replace O'Donovan. All going well, you'll be ratified next Thursday night.
Okay, right. That'll involve a good deal of travelling. I'll want to take Ryan with me.
Okay. Consider it done. Denny, you remember that little chat that we had about Kilburry?
That godforsaken bog. Jeez, I don't know. Brigade will hardly sanction any actions like that, especially with talks of a truce.
Look, we have information that Lysak has given info to the barracks, right? And besides, sure, he owns half the land in the parish. Think of the possibilities.
I have no interest in land road.
Which isn't that what you're fighting for?
I'm fighting for the living. And the poor bastards who died with their ribs sticking out of their back up in this mountain over the years.
Oh, how noble, huh? Ah, well, you were never one to run with the pack. You know, it was often a wonder to me that you're here doing this at all. I could picture you on the left bank in Paris, boy, writing poetry.
Verses are for reflecting in peaceful times, though. Bullets are more effective now.
Oh, if we get over the line, they'd cover us in glory and shamrocks this time, you poet friends, huh?
Oh, you know, I'll have to say they'll do that anyway. And the shamrocks and the harps, they'll all be the plenty of our bit.
You know what? There's some terrible shite written over the years, huh?
True enough.
Anyway, back to business. Now, strictly off of the record, of course.
Is anything off the record?
Well, maybe not. But I've abandoned any notion of pleasing the universe or God a long time ago. Events have forced our hand here.
He's never around at night time. And when he is, Lowry is driving him around in that becking motor car he is.
Let me sort that out, Or we'll have him in the wrong place at the right time in the morning.
That soon? Oh, Jesus, no way, Roddy. Especially with the heat the last few days.
But it has to be that soon. He's away to Cork to do a case for a week. And I just said we could have a truce soon enough.
Yeah, so why not let him be so? He's not the worst.
Yeah, but Christ, are you gone soft, huh? We have solid information that he's going to the barracks. And besides, my grandfather was thrown off of that land in 80 by Beasley. 'Tis not his. He's well overdue.
A solicitor wouldn't see it that way.
Solicitors and their laws. When you see them sending out those curs to burn poor people's homes in broad daylight, you know they're losing the will to maintain any law.
I can't argue with you there.
Those hands are trained to fill their bellies with bread and beer and to kill. As the Roman uppers used to say, bread and circuses to keep the plebs happy.
So, what, Ireland's a Colosseum?
Yes, and 'tis all framed around this architecture of obedience. Sure, the British inherited it from the Romans. Slavery and managed murder were the keystones of their empire.
Right. So, who are the Christians?
Huh?
In the Colosseum.
Sure, that's the irony, lad. They're all Christian. And if God was left out of it, things would be a lot simpler. Look, Lysak will be in the quarry in the morning, and Lowry will probably be with him. Now, I don't mind if you plug that sleeve into. You just lay that planter low.
I don't like this. No. Get someone else to do it or leave it sit.
We have a good few secrets between us, boy. This will be just one more. You just remember, the minute that you plug Lysak, you'll free 1,000 men, women and children.
He's got 4 children of his own. 3 girls under the age of 10. I only saw him last week in the shoppers.
Yeah, what's the matter with you? Do you know what? You're too bloody empathetic. Do you even know what that means?
Does it mean I don't like just killing people for the sake of it?
Yeah, and Jesus, there's killing all around us just for all of our sakes. You're either unwilling or you're unable to see the bigger picture here.
Don't like bigger pictures. We prefer the small ones.
That's because you're only a sheltered farmhand and you do what you were told.
A minute ago you said I'd be doing well over in Beckin Paris.
You just do this now and that's it.
Or what?
Have you any idea what's coming down the tracks? Huh? There won't be any bloody revolution. They won't hand over this country to you or to me or to our kind. They'll hand it over to the Catholic gentry and the Jesuit nephews who were reared on the hind tit. This country won't be run from the mansion house. It'll be run from the newt.
Right. So we'll be swapping masters. Jesus, hasn't someone got to be in charge? At least now it'll be our own.
Well, it mightn't be so bad for all of us, but not so good maybe for yourself or Mr. Ryan there.
What are you saying, Rory?
It's coming down the tracks won't be good for you, or your fancy boy Ryan. The Catholic Church have cut the balls right off of the race to you, 70 like some feckin' Eucharist. They're worse than the British that way. Look, you're a good lad, and no one had questioned your dedication. But to be honest with you, I don't give a shit what you do in your spare time. I'm a bloody sorceress, for Christ's sake. I hate them almost as much as the British with their medieval cloaks and their spells. But you must know that your sexual preferences will destroy you. Look, you just progress it in the morning, and I'll protect you to the ends of the earth.
How many times would I ask you not to do that in this room? Will you do it, young son?
Arab Bridget, for God's sake, might be late March, but the cow will drill into your bones.
It's going to warm up. I can feel it be warm.
Would you little scut? Your was left the tap yet.
Here, get that old cap off you there, Matt. I have a small dinner to make tonight. Mr. and Mrs. Lycett are heading over to the Lindsays for a fundraiser.
What's that?
These are hard times, Matt. It's a social event, and a hat will be passed around after for the Red Cross.
What do they do?
To help soldiers who are injured as a result of this little old agitation that's going on around the country at the minute.
Well, I'm not so.
Oh, far from it. There's a sick yob up at the party field. I'll give you the lamp later. We'll go up and check it on. But go around and check the gates as well. They're still open and cutting the wire.
Oh, God almighty, those pups.
Spoke to your Uncle Rhodey. He says it must be a rogue element opening the gate and cutting the wire. They didn't his boys.
Well, I suppose that must be it, so.
For God's sakes, and all that Mr. Lycett has done for this parish, church donations, the sports field, and didn't he give timber out to all the old people on the mountain in 15 when we got that blizzard?
No, indeed he did. And the blood goes to the head. Matt, go out and check that motor car for oil and fuel. Do you remember how I showed you?
Jesus, Mikey, that thing scares the life out of me. Why can't we just go back to the drafts in the carriage?
Stop! It is the way of the future. Do you know the man that builds that car is from Cork, the same as the boss? He went out to America, building an empire.
Don't know if I like the sound of that, Lowry. Boys in the village are always giving out about the empire. You should see Wiltshire Welsh after a couple of Guinnesses. He'd go red in the face and he'd be pounding his fist into the side of his head.
And that's a good doesn't do. He's afraid of his own shadow, that's how we go look.
This is a different type of empire entirely. A mechanical one. Mr. Ford is so organised. He teaches his workers to build each car in 84 steps.
Sounds like an awful lot of hard work, sure. If they stuck with the horse, be easier. He builds himself, it just takes a few months longer.
Go out and do those few jobs, will you? I'll be out in a while to bring around the car.
Okay.
Something afoot. I know damn well there's that road to lane behind all this grey hair.
Be careful talking about him near the boy. He's a good lad, innocent and dim-witted, God bless his soul. But blood is thicker than water.
Telling you, I don't like it. Something brewing in here. It's like there's a pack of wolves closing in around the estate.
Don't be ridiculous. You gave too long listening to old ladies talking about fairies and fish hawks on the hill when you were a lad. Sure, you know those lads and went to school with them. They're saying they'll be through in weeks.
That's what worries me. The boss can give out all the timber he likes. Might be on the wrong side of things this time. And he's a bad bastard. It's his grandfather kicked out of this place back in 80. Grudge of it is buried deep in the mind.
That was a long time ago now. And old Mr. Lysa bought it fair and square.
Ah, wished. The bricks in the church might talk in centuries. We'll held on to a grudge for them.
Don't think they do anything, do you?
I don't know. The whole thing is shaky. And lunatics like that today love things. Chaos is the working pond in which she swims.
What's got into you at all? Talk and nonsense. What do you mean? Murky ponds and chaos.
Well, hello, Miss Primrose Light. We met a little birdie this morning that told me you jumped the 5-footer in the backfield this morning.
I did indeed, Michael. But I'm not so sure it was little birdie who told you, or my mother.
This license is miles ahead of you, aren't you, dear?
I'm not so sure about that now, Bridget. Father says to Mother that Michael has great organic intelligence. Whatever in God's name that means.
I'd say he'd love to hear you saying that down here.
Mother and Father are going out tonight.
Oh, that means an early page.
And another few pages of Alice.
Yes, dear. As long as we get our jobs done first, that shouldn't be a problem.
Michael,
Yes, my madam.
was Mr. Stone killed on his farm yesterday?
Who's been talking to you about all that carry-on? It's not the business of little ladies, nor should it concern them in any way.
I just heard Mrs. Loopy talking about it in the post office. Why would somebody shoot Mr. Stone?
God, that one's jaw must be worn to a clipping.
Look, Miss Primrose, there's some things that just can't be explained, and we just have to let them play out.
I beg your pardon, Michael.
It's like the time the big black stallion took off with the carriage. We didn't chase after him, but we waited until he stopped.
That stallion stopped after he ran over the quarry edge and died. And Grandpa's carriage was also smashed to pieces.
I always said you'd never from a hedge school.
The horse doesn't have to run over the edge of the cliff. It is in the hands of God. If we just keep the head down, everything will be all right.
But isn't that what Mr. Stone was doing? Keeping his head down?
Wasn't he kept you low enough?
Michael.
Look, Miss Primrose. This business is nearly over now. And everything will be grand again.
Jesus, you scared the life out of me.
You're easily fooled. How are things?
Grant,
Are they heading out?
I think so. Into the Lindsay's for dinner or something.
Well, it was well found. He's rowdy about.
Well, he'd be out having a minute to bring that contraption around for the boss.
Didn't I tell you already that he might give you a few sacks and coppers, but he's not your boss?
Hey, Uncle Rodney, if you don't want out, you see, you want to make yourself scared.
Don't be fussing about that for at all. Now you'll stop each our little plans, which your way. Now, what have you to do in the morning at cockcrow?
Run into the kitchen of the big house and...
Come on, focus, goddammit.
Run into the parlour and say that there's 2 dogs above the quarry field and they're chasing the ewes in inlands.
Well, that's it. And what are you to do then?
Tell Mr. Lyson that there was a lot of blood.
That's it, good man. The blood should draw him out.
What are you going to do to Mr. Lyson, Uncle?
Did I ever lie to you?
No, sir.
Well, I'm not going to start now. Look at you, just keep your trap shut. Loose lips,
Sing ships. What?
look, License will be in the quarry in the morning. He'll probably have Lowry with him and a shotgun too, so you stay well back.
Jesus, Roddy, I don't know. I'm afraid you won't be able.
You won't be able to what? Draw him to the quarry?
No, not that. Bear the guilt afterwards.
Guilt? Guilt? What the bloody hell are you talking about? Come on, spit it out. This is no time to be talking in riddles.
Well, I've worked at the estate for 5 years and they've always treated me well. What about the girls? Primrose?
Those people are rats, boy. Rats! That'd be our land if your great-grandfather wasn't evicted off it and those panther leeches got put on it. I told you not to get too attached to those honest bastards. You're too soft.
Sorry, Uncle Roddy.
You do your duty in the morning. Be cold, calculated and methodical like a fucking machine. Don't be minding your bloody emotions. How good at soft talk and guilt you our 3 lads above in Knock Row yesterday, huh? We can't even put him into the graveyard because they dig him up out of the ground and strap him to the front of a tender.
I was just getting confused. It's a sad business.
Things will get a lot sadder if we don't win this thing. This isn't a game of hurling. You just remember that tomorrow when you were walking behind that privileged bastard.
Okay, Uncle Roddy.
His belly will be full as usual. But what he won't know is that it's his last meal he'll be carrying. And remember, boy, things are bad now. But they'll get a lot worse if you don't stay on your own side.
It's hard to believe there's a war raging across the land when you're up here in the peace and quiet.
Oh, it's peaceful, all right. You know, that's not by accident all the same.
How so?
This war, it's as much about property as it is about religion. This land up here, it's no good for agriculture or any other economic activity. That's why there's never anyone up here fighting over it. No, wherever these flat lands are won, the hills like neglected backyards. They just come with the victory.
I suppose. It's an overflow of sorts. People always came up here when they were pushed off the more fertile ground below.
True enough. Come here. Do you see that glen over there? It's as deep as 3 houses.
All I see is a hole. Black as pitch.
Well, in the penal times, there was mass being built on a rock beyond the pile of clay. The Brits came upon it.
The scouts were asleep that day.
Anyway, the people had provided the priest with a fine black stag, fast as a bullet. Well, they hoisted him up and away he went with the priest hunters in hot pursuit. He knew if he got to the woodlands of Clone over there, he'd be safe.
There's not much woodlands in it nowadays.
No, but Clone once was a haven for priests, Tories, and all manner of rebels back in the 1700s. Yeah, they eventually cut away the woodlands and stripped the cover. My old grandfather always maintained that the great oaks didn't they end up being the rafters in the roof of the feckin' House of Commons.
Talk about irony.
Anyway, on this day he was outnumbered, and with the horse tiring as he neared the glen, he decided to go for it. Those who were there recalled how for a moment the priest and that horse floated through the air, with his black cloak fluttering in the mountain breeze.
He made it.
Well, the balladeer Crowley described how the priest and horse blended into an amorphous black shadow and floated into the safety of Cloran Woods.
He got away so.
You're a Jesus, he didn't. That's just another pish oak to soften the hearts of a brutally oppressed people. Oh, another chapter in the failure of our history. Oh no, he and that fine horse tumbled into the bottom of that glen, never to be seen again. Oh, the waters, they're high that time of year. They're probably floating down the Waterford Quays by the next sunrise.
So that's why they call it Pole and Soggart.
Aye, you know, sometimes I think the only consistency in our history is misery.
True enough, but it seems as if the fulcrum is shifting this time. I think we're heading to a point where we'll be finally able to manage our own affairs.
Our own affairs? That depends on who and what the hour is.
You see, that's why our plan is so important. When this business is over and we've done our best, we can leave with a clear conscience and start fresh.
Gerard, what'll I do in New York anyway? At least you have a plan to continue with your studies.
By all accounts, it's a place that you can do whatever you like. They just want a job done, and they don't care whether you're Catholic or Protestant or have money behind you. None of that stuff matters. That's why it works over there.
God, that sounds great. Is it just a pipe dream, don't you?
Well, it is if we don't act it out. I told you my uncle will send us the money. He's loaded, and he'll do anything for us after our records in this war. There's even, like, a community out there. People like ourselves, where we'll be able to make friends and not have to be looking over our shoulders all the time.
And your uncle, he can get me work.
Any amount. You can work away, do some of your writing. I can finish me studies. Sure, you could even start writing your memoirs. God knows you'll have plenty of material.
Right, yeah, okay. You're right. You and me in New York, it'd be great. We have to swim through a lot of shit before we get to that point. That Delaney is a dark horse. He's putting pressure on me to plug lices. I don't like it. He's settling an old score and he's getting me to do his dirty work.
Christ. Lices? That Delaney. He's a devious bastard. That'll weigh too heavy on you. Tell him you're refusing. He can't make you do it. You'll be ratified as OC on Thursday, and you can say you have misgivings.
Jim, I wish it was as simple as that. He's setting himself up with a farm for his retirement. I know there's nothing political about it, but I can't refuse.
Why not, goddammit? This isn't a dictatorial organisation. We have due process for everything.
He says he'll tell the higher-ups about us.
What about? Little. But how? We've been so careful.
The sneaky bastard. Didn't you read the letter you sent to me in your studying in Dublin?
How?
It fell out of my pocket when we were on the run. The papers was staying in that safe house in Lismore Inn. He never said anything about it until now, sir. He was obviously just holding on to his leverage.
Little. Well, he has us in a bind. What are you set to do now?
I don't know. I'll decide when I'm there in the morning. I mean, look, I've taken a good few lives over the years. Maybe one more won't be that difficult.
You're making a big mistake, and you know it, Denny.
I don't think I have a choice.
You do. Face him down. He's only bluffing. You can't kill that man. I know he's brash and an arrogant shit, but it's different.
But sure, how? Isn't he just another man standing in the way of what we're fighting for?
See, I know you don't believe it's that simple, or you wouldn't be asking the question. You'd be plugging a father afore without even giving him a final word. At least, if we take and interrogate him, there'll be some semblance to due process or fairness about it. But this way, it'll weigh too heavy on you afterwards, spy or not.
Do you know what they'll do to us if he lets this out?
Oh, sure don't I know rightly. And he'll have the backing and the blessings of all the priests to hang us from the nearest tree. At least if you tell Delaney to shag off, we might have some chance. But if you kill Lycett without a trial, it'll be the undoing of both of us. I'm telling you.
'Twas hard, the woeful words to frame, to break the ties that bound us, but harder still to bear the shame of foreign chains around us. And so I said, the mountain glen I'll meet at morning early, and join the bold united men, while soft wind shook the barley.
around here, Matt?
Oh yeah, they were chasing her down there.
Blast it! Jeez. Did some job on her.
God damn it! No dog I've ever seen from here to Carrick can use a knife like that.
What do you mean?
She's cut from neck to heel. Not the work of wild dogs. More like our saboteurs. Well, did you see the dogs, man?
Look, boss, you and Mrs. Nice, you were always...
God damn you, you little wretch! I also always suspected that uncle of yours would get inside your head! What's the plan now, huh?
Oh, sorry, boss, I was in a fleas.
Be honest. Boss! How did this happen, miss? Boss!
Come here, Lowry!
Jesus, boss. If those bastards only knew you like I knew you.
It's not the time for soft talk! You were always a bit too sentimental. Go and get Jenny and don't alarm the girls, just tell her I fell in the quarry.
We'll get you back to the vehicles. We'll call the doctor. We'll get you fixed up.
George, what have they done to you?
It's okay, my dear. Remember Kipling. Keep the head when all around you are losing theirs.
Are you okay? We'll get the doctor and I'll call the barracks.
Go and get the solicitor and use the barracks phone and tell him to come at once.
Oh, George. The bloody cowards. You were right. They never had the guts to say what they mean. Or look you in the eye. And poor old Matt.
Maybe we've turned them that way, my dear.
George, you have to fight this. You were in the trenches. This is just small change for you.
Bloody bad shot, too. A proper soldier wouldn't shoot you in the guts. Do you remember when we were in Dorky, the morning after the wedding, and you went to your sister's?
Yes. What does that got to do with anything?
Well, there was a wicked commotion in the street after you left. William came rushing in and said a young lady wearing a fawn coat had been killed at the pier by a runaway lorry.
Yes?
Do you remember the coat you were wearing that morning when you left?
Why, yes. The fawn coat.
During the worst bombardments in Ypres and the Somme, and all of the chaos over there, I never had a feeling like the one I had that morning.
George, you never said.
It was horrendous. I can't describe it, only to say the world had tilted on its axis, and I nearly lost my footing. Thought of losing you so soon.
It'll be okay now. Dr. Wheeler's on the way.
What about the girls?
Laura will bring him out to see Primrose's horse.
hold on to the land, dear. It's the only thing that anchors us.
No! We'll both hold on to it together. George! Bridget! George! Bridget!
In this parish yesterday morning, a foul deed was committed. Under the ever and all-watching eye of God's steeple, these criminals perpetrated a heinous act, a crime against God and humanity, an abomination! Now this hasn't happened to a stranger, or a Hun, or some aristocrat in Westminster. This has happened to one of your own. So don't assuage your guilt by packaging this crime into some political compartment to ease your conscience. Sing your songs and put these men's names into them, and your mouths will fill with blood. Drip onto this accursed bogside you're so obsessed with. Demons who perpetrated this horrendous act will burn in hell. The hottest flames are being stoked right now to blast the wretched evil from their souls. And I say demons plural, because it takes a village to rear a child, and it takes a village to kill a child and badly wound a great man. They are eternally bound now. Their blood was spilt on a piece of bogland that has been fought over for hundreds of years. And to what cost? I cannot answer that, because it cannot be measured in acres or indeed blood, but transcends this earthly world. Debt of evil latches on to the killer's soul and is repaid for eternity. Now, these monsters did not act alone. So if you've turned a blind eye, passed a note or hidden a gun, or given a bet to one of these so-called revolutionaries, then the flames will devour you also. As for your masters, the ones who pull your strings, well, let me say this. These strings may pull you this way and that way in this life, but they are ultimately not the strings who will set you free when you're put into the ground. Your immortal souls will pay an incalculable interest for your political zealotry. Let me conclude by saying this. And if any of you have a shred of decency or faith in you, then I hope this chills you to the marrow. The man who pulled the trigger that killed a 15-year-old boy and badly wounded a pillar of this community, indeed a man over the very roof of this church, despite the fact that he practiced a different faith, the man who pulled that trigger will die before this man, who is far from home and writhing in agony in a field hospital. His agony will expire one way or the other, and not go with him. But it is only beginning for the wretch who committed this horrendous deed. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen.
Finish, Thomas. Finish. You bloody well killed me letter and only wounded the child. Please. My sister-in-law is a broken woman.
I don't care, lady. Finish anyway. You put me down as a bigger fool to be blackmailed by a cur like you.
Master, I finish you myself.
Finish as well, lady. Read on revenge is blinded you. I told you to take that lump in a handbag. You didn't give a shite about him.
Go on. Don't be told. Yourself and your boyfriend can go to America and read poetry.
Who the hell?
We know all about your plans to elope, huh? Mind you, it was tough for the fairy. It took 3 hours and a good prayers to get everything out of him.
Bastard, the lady. You would know right. He'd not to tell.
He was given information, the same as yourself. And the story is you wanted to plug right to keep quiet. Our doctor is a great device to stimulate ideas, even if they are fabricated.
You rat.
Drop it, stop.
Go ahead, lady. You heard the priest. We all pay in the end, so it's a case equal who dies first.
What's this? A recant? Some last recant?
No, it's not that. Oh, I'm finished anyway. I didn't do so well, but at least I won't miss the world. I haven't got that pathological connection to the dirt like you have.
I forgot. You were always the idealist who was fighting for the downtrodden, huh?
That's kind of ironic, isn't it? You call yourself a socialist.
I knew the reason is available to me to get where I need to go.
Just remember this. When you're ploughing that quarry field you so desire, your nephew's blood will glisten on every sod you turn on it.
Those of us that survive will write our own history. I need the bones from the bishops to the priests.
Oh, it didn't have to end this way, the lady.
It probably did. And now I will be carried out the priest's orders. A curse is a curse.
"'Tis 50 long years since I saw the moon beaming on strong manly forms. Her eyes were a gleaming. I see them again in all my sad dreaming. Glory, oh, to the bold Fionn man, to the bold Fionn man."
Oh, stop to the sorry business.
The boss has gone up to Dublin. That's according to Mary Luby anyway. gone to a field hospital. What's that?
I don't know. I think it's a hospital for Protestants with land.
Poor old Matt. Oh, jeez. Do they need fit to be tied? I'm only saying now, right? But there was small talk in the post office that you were put in by the constabulary yesterday.
Who said that?
I did. Did you not hear me?
They pulled me in to ask me, was I around in the morning when the boss was shot in the quarry?
And?
For Jesus' sake, shot! I was with you when we heard the shot from the yard. I never for this any more be serious ailments and all that. Besides, the boss nails me in the air. I'm never in the quarry field. Why, what did you hear?
Jesus! A fella just wanted to be keeping his head down.
Hard thing to do with them fetting peelers.
Jesus.
Bring you into the barracks in broad daylight and spit you back out in the street with the sun on your back.
Oh, yes.
Jesus. Oh, how you rode it?
Anything starting?
No, nothing at all.
Sorry for your trouble, right?
Oh, trouble surely. Truth be known. Troubles that could have been avoided.
Never a true word, Roddy.
Let us wait. Did the peelers give you much of a griddle?
The peelers? Oh, Jesus. No. She shot and sweet like an ass's gallop.
More like a race about what the colour come to my hands. Tell me this week, how long were you working for that planter on my grandfather's land?
Come on now, Roddy. You know surely. I go in and do my business and keep
How long?
15 years.
Oh my God. There's symmetry.
How do you mean, Roddy?
You worked a year for every year of my nephew's short time on this earth.
Oh, God, Roddy, my heart is broken for you. He was a grand chap and taken too soon.
That's the crux, Rich. He was taken.
Can't deny
He
that.
owned them. That's the question.
Oh, jeez, Roddy, I'm no good at riddles. And my serious ailments are starting to affect my head as well as my hips.
He was taken by loose talk. I'm not talking about that bastard using him for a shield.
Oh, God, Roddy, Mr. Lyson would never.
Would never what? Would never what? We need to have a little chat. Huh? I want you to explain your movements yesterday.
Jesus Christ, Roddy, I went through this with the second peelers yesterday.
Riley!
Jesus, Roddy. Roddy, come on. Glory, to the poor
Is that your business concluded, Mr. Sheen?
Yes, Mrs. Lycett. You'll have a check within the month and the new tenants will move in thereafter.
Thank you, Mr. Sheen. You'll be most courteous in your dealings with the matter.
You're welcome, Mrs. Lycett. May I say it's been a pleasure to do business with you. And I hope the future will heal you and your family, or at least make things a little bit easier for you.
We shall see. Girls and I will make a new start in London, and hopefully make a home from home.
Beg your pardon, Mrs. Lycett. There's just one final question. It's not in relation to the transaction, it's more a matter of the heart.
Go ahead, Mr. Sheen.
I know it took George 3 months to die. The night that I was drafting the will by his bedside, he left and ran to the village.
Yes, Mr. Sheen.
I heard that you helped chase away the auxiliaries that had come to burn out the villages were reprising. You were those kind. You left the father and 4 daughters, and went to defend a place that had arguably betrayed your family.
My dear Mr. Sheen, it's often said that we don't understand the Irish mindset. But if you accept now that we are Irish too, why did the two have to be sundered? George's family have lived in Cork and Kerry for 7 generations. We are in the cold now. But I had to defend my village, and he would have done the same thing. Ruffians are ruffians, and murder is murder, Mr. Sheen. No matter what addition of a god the gunman worships.
Thank you all for coming today, and thank you, our college. To honour these brave sons of Erin, the men from this parish who gave their all and made the ultimate sacrifice for Mother Ireland. They slept in ditches and starved and washed their comrades dry so that we could on this day bask in their glory. It was a long time coming. Evictions, famine, and the repression of our deep and cherished faith were all articulated through the brutality of our oppressors. Today, Ireland is free, and although we have unfinished business, it is a nation amongst nations. We can now be the best version of ourselves. The manhood that rose up and grabbed the imperial Huns by the throat can lead and guide us to a moral and virtuous plateau with, of course, the assistance of the Holy Church and the Virgin Mary.
Mother? Yes, dear? I will miss Bridget's brown bread. Larry used to say it should curl his toes when he ate it straight out of the oven.
Would a cup of tea was quite a tonic on a cold morning.
Mother?
Yes, dear?
Do you think we will ever be back?
I'm afraid not, my love. But you will make a new life. You and your sisters. Oh, your aunt has a beautiful house in Covent Gardens, and you will make new friends.
But this is my home. I will miss my horses and my friends.
I'm afraid you're on the wrong side of things now, my dear. You're going to have to accept it.
Mother?
Yes, dear?
I saw Father through the window.
When?
That morning. I was timing him because he promised to take me out on the mare after breakfast. He was walking so briskly. You know the way he used to march. Mallory and Matt stumbling along to keep up. Until that moment. That moment, everything changed.
Primrose, you never said.
It was strange. I only heard a little pop. And then Father rocked over, like that big oak Larry felled in the back last year. He was propped in the mud, unable to move. It was terrible to see Father in that position. And at a distance, I could see his panting breath. But then it's slow.
You always remember that your father was a Fionn man, and he loved you dearly.
I wanted to run to him. I was afraid.
We have the freedom to manage our own affairs, and with the Virgin Mary, our glorious Queen of Heaven, we can achieve great things. This monument will be a constant reminder of the dead generations who gave their lives for Irish freedom. And let me tell you, freedom to choose is a precious commodity. This new Ireland that we are building will have this freedom as its essence. Difference will be tolerated, but never again will it be allowed to deviously undermine what we have fought so hard to gain. We make no apologies by stating that we will jealously preserve the right kind of freedom. And this was for this kind of freedom that our young Catholic manhood was shed. Together, we will build a nation for all. God save Ireland! Hooray!
Well, now you've seen what men can do when they are in the fray. The blood was up, the cards were dealt, and those who were in the way were slain and blackened for the cause. They failed to make a stance. Against the rising tide of anger, there was little chance. For those who stood and fought against the growing rage, their time was up and they were lost. In the turning page of history and of changing times, they would have to cede that they were no longer there to take the righteous lead. For the day had come to those who had lain in wait, to walk in legion down the road and through the landlord's gate. Yet, with all that was said and all that was done, and history's web was spun, 'twas a sad and sorry time, that year of 21.
Blood for blood without remorse, I've taken a Doolar's hollow and laid my true love's faithful corpse where I soon must follow. As round the grave I wander